If I had to start my clothing brand Tame Psychotic all over again in 2025, knowing everything I've learned, building it to 7 figures in 2 years, I'd actually do it a lot differently. Like, I'd do things completely differently, actually. See, most people starting clothing brands are using advice from like 2019, and that shit doesn't work 6 years later. You know, spending months on logo design, trying to research and find the next trending product that's gonna blow up, and just kind of creating products in a vacuum, just hoping some shit blows up, right? And that's just not how shit works. It's completely backwards at this point in 2025. And I know this because I made all these same mistakes back 2-3 years ago whenever I was starting my brand. But if I started all over again today, I would actually avoid 90% of the bullshit that wasted my time and money back then, which is exactly what I am here to help you avoid in this video. So if you're starting a clothing brand or you are thinking about starting a brand, I'd pay attention, because this video could save you 2.5 years of mistakes and tens of thousands of dollars in fuck ups that I had to go through the past few years. So let's jump in. So the first big mistake that I made, and I see majority of other brand owners make too, is focusing first on the product that they want to make rather than who they are. See, myself back then and most other brand owners today, they think that building a brand is about picking fonts and picking colors and picking the right photos to put in your designs. And I hate to break it to you, that isn't brand building, that's graphic design. So if I started over today, the first thing I would do before I did anything else was get crystal clear on my brand's DNA. That's not what I think will sell on Instagram. That's who I am as a person. For my brand, Tame Psychotic, our brand DNA came from exactly who I am as a person, right? I'm a simple man. I like vintage clothes. I like redneck shit, but I also like elevated fashion concepts, right? I like hard shit. I like bikes and guns and America and denim and distressing and just rough stains, oil washes. I like all that shit, right? I like band tees. I like rock and roll, right? I like pushing limits. I like chasing superiority. I like chaos. And our whole motto of the chaotic pursuit of an imperfect superior self isn't just some kind of like branding gimmick that I came up with. That's like who I am as a person, right? I'm not perfect, right? I'm rugged. My haircut's typically 2 months too late. I don't wear fancy clothes. I don't wear the nice watches, right? I wear a lot of rough shit, you know. It looks worn, it looks dirty sometimes, it looks a little gross here and there, right? But I am going to be the best. I am on a quest to become the best at whatever it is that I do, right? And that's who we are at Tame Psychotic. Rather, it's not who we are at Tame Psychotic, that's who I am at heart. And that energy from within me became kind of the foundation for the brand. And the reason this is really important, and the reason it's important for your DNA to be authentic, is because you're gonna face this every single day, right? You are going to wake up and you're gonna think about this project every single day, right? So if you're thinking about something that's inauthentic, that isn't you, that's something else that you're like trying to play the role of or trying to like play into, right? You're not gonna wake up every day excited to tackle it. Your effort and output for the brand is going to be inauthentic, which means it's going to be less powerful, less potent. It's going to land with your audience less effectively. It's just not going to work. A brand that stands the test of time requires passion. You can't fake passion for something that doesn't represent who you actually are. So if I had to start over today, here's exactly how I would find my brand's DNA. First, I'd look at the earliest influences in my life before I even started the brand. Before I knew anything about business, what culture was I around? What values shaped me? What kind of person do I naturally connect with? For me, it was motorcycle culture, combat sports, X Games, right? Artistic, grungy shit. So that became kind of our foundation, right? And I also wanted it to be growth oriented because I'm a very growth oriented individual, right? So we kind of laid that foundation of my core values with the people that I like to associate with and the person that I am, alongside this kind of ideology that growth comes from doing uncomfortable shit, from doing scary shit, from doing chaotic shit, from living a life that isn't safe and is, you know, maybe a little bit dangerous and a little bit, you know, uneasy, right? That's how you become superior. That's how I've become superior, at least. So I've sewn that ideology into my brand's kind of DNA, into the way of thinking, into our kind of philosophy. Now, the second thing I'd do is I'd get really, really hyper specific on the community that I want to serve. Not who I think will buy my clothes, not people who like clothes, right? Because that's way too broad, all right? You're trying to sell to the entire world. Everybody wears clothes. It's illegal to not wear clothes, right? So everybody likes wearing clothes. That is way too broad. You can't think, oh, well, like, I'm gonna just sell to people who fuck with some cool clothes, right? No. You need to get specific about the lifestyle, the values, the habits, the thoughts and energy that flows through my ideal customer. Because at least for my brand, my customers aren't buying clothes. They're buying into a world. They're buying into a philosophy. They're buying into a way of thinking, a way of carrying yourself. They're buying into a community of people who all represent this kind of strong, tenacious, gruff energy. They're entrepreneurs, athletes, snowboarders, dirt bikers, Muay Thai fighters, boxers, right? They're the vintage lovers. They're the go-getters, right? The tenacious people, the people who like scary shit, the adrenaline junkies, the bikers, the motorcycle fucking, speed racers. This is people that understand that a boring, mediocre life is just not an option, right? That's me. So it's going to be my customers too. Now, once I have this identity locked in, every single piece of content that I make will support this narrative, right? It'll reinforce this identity that I've created. And every single time we post, that piece of content will make somebody think, oh, this is exactly me, or this is definitely not me, right? It needs to be so specific. There's got to be no middle ground. There's got to be no person viewing your content being like, it's all right. Like, maybe if I watch some more content, like I'd find out, if that was more my speed. But for now, it's like, no, you need somebody to see your content and immediately be like, oh shit, I fuck with this immediately. That means that your identity, your DNA is finite. That means it's tangible, it's touchable. It's not like a bunch of floating sand in the air. Kind of like whenever you get a new iPhone and you're scanning it, right? It needs to be a hard block that you can hold and toss up in the air. It needs to be tangible. And I say this because this is how you build a brand that people become obsessed with, that stands out amongst a sea of other mediocre brands that are just posting mock-ups and product shots and making blank hoodies or making, sweatpants with a logo down the side. All right. There's a ton of people doing that. And if you want to stand out, you need to be distinct. You need to be so fucking rock solid in exactly who you are. And it needs to be niched. It needs to be specific, right? Because if people can't immediately identify this is me or this is not me, then you are too broad. You're too vague. You're not going to stand out and you're going to get swallowed up just like everybody else, right? The reason my brand is successful is because it's so distinct. If you go to my Instagram and you go to my brand's Instagram and you scroll, you know exactly what you're getting into. You see the textures, you see the colors, you see the imagery, right? You see the marketing creatives, you see the people that we use for modeling, and you know exactly like who we are, right? That's what you want to feel. Right? And you want to fill that on every level. The website, the logos, the fonts, the models that you choose, the color grades that you choose, your R&D posts, your reference points, your accessories. Everything needs to feel distinct and specific, right? It can't be vague. It can't be like something that's going to appeal to everyone, because if you try and appeal to everyone, you'll appeal to no one, all right? You'll appeal to no one if you're trying to reach as many people as possible, right? That's why you can't think so big in terms of like, oh, I want to make a pair of jeans that's going to go viral that everybody is going to wear, right? Because realistically, maybe Walmart or Zara or H&M or, ASOS, maybe they have the funds, the distribution, and the awareness to do that, but you don't. All right, I'm going to explain a concept real quick that's going to clear this up in your mind. Okay, I want you to picture an upside down triangle. This triangle is divided up into 3 parts. You got the top, the biggest part, the middle, the second biggest part, and then the bottom of the triangle, right? This top right here, this is Walmart, ASOS, Zara, H&M, right? These guys are making products for everyone. They are making products for literally any person who just needs clothes, right? Now, this bottom right here, this bottom piece of the triangle, this is Norwegian folktales. Now, what do you guys know about Norwegian folktales? Not shit, right? Me either. I don't know shit about Norwegian folktales, all right? That means this is too small, right? This is too niched, but this is too broad, because now you're competing with, like I said, Walmart, Zara, H&M, and you're not competing with those guys, right? So you need to compete in this middle section, all right? Now, what puts you in this middle section? Well, being, number one, more niched than the big guys, more Norwegian folktales, right? Not that niche, not quite that niched, but a little bit less niched, just niched enough to separate yourself from all of these guys, because this is where the market opening is, right here. This middle section, that is where the marketing opening is, and this is what a brand identity, this is what being distinct, this is where it places you, right? And if you are placed here, you have opportunity. If you're here, maybe you have a little bit of opportunity, but not much, not enough, right? And if you're here, you're fucked. You're going nowhere and you're gonna get swallowed. Now, moving on. The second thing that I would do if I was starting over my clothing brand today is start documenting my journey via a personal brand from day one. And I wouldn't build my personal brand around the products that I'm making. I would build it around the story and the narrative that I'm presenting. I would build it around myself. Right? I would start telling the story of my brand before the brand even exists, right? That's exactly what I did, right? With my personal brand. I started my personal brand. I started documenting with as much authenticity as possible exactly who I was, exactly the energy I wanted my brand to emit, exactly the look that I wanted to establish, right? The feel that I wanted people to get, invested in, right? And that's exactly what my brand is. And here's the secret, all right? Most of these brands, they try and look well established, like a 10-year brand from day one. And that's a mistake. All right, you are not well established. Don't try and be something that you're not. Be the broke startup guy. Be the broke Mark Zuckerberg in college making the Facebook. Be authentic, right? Your biggest advantage with this whole brand shit is being authentic and being who you are, because no one is authentic, right? And when we're talking in terms of distinction and in terms of standing out in a sea of vagueness, being authentic is going to immediately set you apart from probably 90% of people attempting this. Now, if I started over, I'd probably pick one or two platforms, probably Instagram and TikTok. TikTok because it's a discovery first platform, which means the videos that you post are going immediately to non-followers, and Instagram because it's an intimate platform. I can message people, I can post on my stories, I can post on my notes, I can post on my feed, I can post on Reels, which is discovery first, which means it's going to appeal to a lot of people. I can post on trial Reels, which immediately shows my Reels to non-followers instead of the people who follow me, and I can choose to post to reach my internal followers, right? So I have a lot of control there. I'd consider that kind of like the heart of a personal brand. And once I've created these two accounts, I'm just going to start documenting from day one. All right, from the first drawing sketch that I do, from the first reference points that I collect, from the first name idea I have, right? I'm going to document everything. I wish I had done this earlier. I didn't start documenting until I had already kind of like gotten a little bit into it, but I did start documenting pretty early on, and it's definitely benefited me in terms of building a narrative and a culture for my brand. I'd start posting shit like, day one of building my clothing brand, here's why I'm doing this. This happened with my brand, and this is how I'm going to fix it. Here's what I'm learning about my community, right? Here's what I did to serve my community this week. This deal with this manufacturer went terribly. Here's what happened. I just spent $1,000 on samples. Here's what I got. I'd create content around things that actually matter to me, right? If it was a little bit exciting or a little bit intriguing to me, I'd document it, right? Because chances are, if it was intriguing to you, it's probably going to be intriguing to someone else, maybe 2 other people, maybe 5 other people, maybe 100 other people. I'd be documenting new samples, new ideas, new graphic designs, new hires, new people that I see wearing my brand, new special moments, those late nights working until 4 a.m. building my brand, those moments where I hear a song and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what my brand feel is, or whenever I see a influencer and I'm like, oh my gosh, like he really embodies my brand, or just anything, any kind of light bulb moment for me, or any kind of moment where I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm really doing this shit, I'm really grinding, right? Or any kind of moment where I see the fruits of my labor, right? When a new sample comes in, or a new order comes in, or we have a new drop, or we do a photo shoot, anything that is meaningful to me, right? And you're gonna have a ton of these moments, and all of those meaningful moments need to be documented. They need to be shared, because if it's meaningful to you, more than likely, it could be meaningful to someone else, or inspirational to someone else, or entertaining for someone else, all right? And that's important for creating this kind of story and narrative that we're building. And this personal branding approach does 3 things that most brands will never achieve. First, It builds inspiration and tells a story before you even have a product. And if you can get people emotionally invested in your story and your narrative, they're more than likely to buy when there comes a time and an opportunity to buy something. Second, it gives you real market research, right? Feedback, DMs, comments from the community that you want to reach. If you are posting content that's going to engage that desired community for the brand that you want to build, you will get feedback on exactly the products that they want, the stories that they want, the photo shoots that they like, the designs they do like, the designs they don't like, right? And this is all data. And data gives us the ability to make evidence-backed decisions, both financial, creative, all of the above. And the third thing it does is it gives your brand a face to blame, a face to thank. It establishes you as a real person, and people like to buy from people. People don't like buying from a unanimous, unnamed fucking website on Amazon or TikTok Shop, right? Maybe if the product is 10 times cheaper than another listing, maybe they'll buy it then, right? But for the most part, community-based brands that last a long time, these guys want to buy from people. They want to know who they're buying from. They want to buy from people that they like, people that they fuck with, the people that they relate to, all right? They don't want to buy from some random, VC hedge fund fucks, all right? I don't, at least. So when people know who you are and they buy from you, they're buying to support the journey. They're buying to support the story. They're buying because they want to see more, right? And that is awesome. That's beautiful. That's community. That is community, all right? And that is what all of you guys starting a brand in 2025 should be seething for, all right? That's what I should have been seething for whenever I first started my brand, but I was just chasing sales. I was just trying to, find my first winning product, all right? I wasn't focused on community until probably like 6-8 months in, whenever I realized, holy shit, the brands who are actually making it are the brands that are prioritizing the building of their community. Now, here is where most brands really fuck it up. They create clothes that they think looks cool and then just hope that somebody buys it. That's not business, that's gambling, all right? And if you guys want to gamble, then just go to fucking Vegas or just download DraftKings or just go on Roobit or some bullshit, all right? And if I started over from zero, every single item that I made, I would look to validate from my community before buying in bulk and releasing. And you could do this really easy, all right? You could literally just make a mock-up of a design that you're going to do, post them, and ask for feedback, right? Post it on Reddit, in the streetwear forums, post it on Twitter, post it on TikTok, post it on Instagram, make a green screen video on TikTok saying, hey, for the people who like wearing these items, like, what do you think? I'd get feedback from my friends. I'd get feedback from real people in real life that are part of the community that I want to reach and say, hey, what do you think of this, right? And then I'd create a landing page, start collecting email and SMS, maybe have the product listing up, but not available to buy yet. Maybe say coming soon or something. And you guys don't need the whole spiel on email and SMS, all right? You guys have probably seen that 1,000 times, so we're not going to go super deep into that. But yeah, start collecting the people who may have intent to buy your item via email and SMS. And what this does is it just gives you data, all right? It gives you data on whether or not there are people who are going out of their way to give you something, right? A form of communication, a line of communication, their email or their SMS, because they want the item, right? We call this a prior point of compliance, right? If I can get you to shake my hand, then there's a better chance that I can get you to buy this camera from me for $200, right? That's how prior point of compliance works. If you can get somebody to sign up to your SMS list, then there is a higher chance that you can get that person to buy your item. We call these people hot leads, right? In terms of sales, you have your cold leads and your hot leads. Your cold leads are the furthest from purchasing from you. They are the least likely to purchase from you. And your hot leads are the people who have given indication that they are likely to purchase from you, right? So if they have signed up for your SMS, then they have given you indication that they want to purchase this, right? Now you just need to make the item available, market it well, put it in front of their face and say, hey, do you want this, right? And then those hot leads will more than likely buy. Now, I know I said I wasn't going to get too deeply into email and SMS, but I will cover this briefly as this is something I wish I had done from day one that I didn't do. And it's simply just because communication via social media is sticky. It's inconsistent. It's very, very volatile. Sometimes the algorithms like you. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes your story gets 1,000 views. Sometimes it gets 300 views, right? Sometimes your photo will get 100 likes and sometimes it'll get 20 likes. Sometimes you'll think you're shadow banned. You're probably not shadow banned. You're probably just posting shitty content that doesn't reach your target audience. But that's another story for another video. But regardless, social media algorithms, social media communication is very volatile. So what I would do is I would establish a line of communication that existed outside the rules of social media, right? And that's going to be your SMS marketing or your email marketing, because if somebody joins and opts into your email or SMS marketing, they are going to receive that email, they're going to receive that text regardless of what social media algorithms are feeling that day, all right? Because that's how those systems operate. That's how SMS and email marketing operates. If I have 100 people on my email list, on my SMS list, and I hit send to those 100 people, all 100 of those people are going to get that message. Now, whether they open it and click on the link is another story, but they're gonna get notified. They're going to get that email. They're going to get that text, which is important. So if I started over again today, every single piece of content that I made would attempt to drive people to this line of communication. Because again, what we want is a prior point of compliance, which brings them from a cold lead to a hot lead, and we want a good line of communication so that we can tell them and communicate with them effectively without having to worry about the whims of social media algorithms. And you can get creative with this. You can create a lead magnet. Hey, if you join this, we'll give you this, right? Create an incentive to join that, right? Label that as kind of like where you house your community. You can create a Discord. You can create some kind of cool like thingy to offer them. You can use discounts. You can do giveaways. You can do a million different things to incentivize people to join your SMS list. All right, get creative with it. Make some cool content about it. Create a call to action on your Instagram stories, your posts, your videos, your photo dumps, your captions, right? And really, really drive people to join, right? Even do exclusive shit like, hey, if you guys want an early release reveal, or if you guys want early access, or if you guys want a discount, or if you guys want a free this with your order, or if you guys want free access to this group chat, or if you guys want this or that, right? Join the SMS list. You guys can get creative, right? I'm not going to tell you exactly how to do it, because if I told you one way to do it, then everybody would do it that one way, and then it would get washed, all right? And we don't want this to get washed. So get creative with it, all right? Don't do exactly what everybody else is doing. Get creative and think about something that would be unique to your target audience. Think about something that your target community would really appreciate, all right? And lean into that. Now, and you don't need anything fancy. You know, you can do the whole Shopify, the Klaviyo, right? But you could even just do a quick ConvertKit lander, right? Make a ConvertKit account, make a quick lander, start collecting email, right? And then what you do with the email is up to you, whether you want to send a newsletter or you want to send, you know, graphics or pictures or a link or whatever it is, right? But what I would do is create an email list and then use that email list as almost kind of like a personal documentation letter to my audience, right? Like an update on how things are going, right? From the POV of the founder. I'd show the real process. I'd ask for feedback. This is actually how I'm using email marketing as of late. I'm sending out a weekly newsletter, and it's not like a, oh, come buy our products, right? It's a documentation sort of. It's kind of like a letter to my audience of like, oh, here's where we're at. So they get kind of like a behind the scenes kind of like private view of what's going on and what's not posted on social media. It just kind of like makes it kind of more intimate, right? Kind of builds more genuine relationships, all right? And the reason I'm talking about this, even though I said I wasn't going to talk about this, is because your email list will probably become your most valuable asset in the long run, right? Because if your social media gets deleted, at least you have your email, right? If your page gets shadow banned, you still got your email, you still got your SMS. If your page, you know, gets hacked, right? Still got your email, still got your SMS, right? If you all of a sudden can't post on social media, right? Your photographer dies, or you like lose your phone, at least you still got email, right? And if you do have email, you can always plug in like your new social media page or whatever, and you don't have to start over from scratch, which is nice. Now, the next tip is something that most brand owners are kind of afraid to do from the start, from what I've observed. But I'd say it works best if you get this off the ground as soon as possible. And this is going to be using the drop model from the start, all right? Don't start with your store open 24/7. I don't give a fuck what these people on TikTok complaining about, oh, like these small brands, like I hate that their website's closed 24/7. It doesn't matter what they say, all right? What matters is what you do to make sales. Because if your website's open 24/7, then you have no element of scarcity. Your shit's available to anyone at any time, which means people are going to come to your site and they're going to be like, oh, cool. I mean, this is great, but I can go buy it in 3 weeks, you know, after I get my paycheck, right? You don't want that. You don't want like price point or the timing of their paycheck to be the decision-making factor in purchasing an item from you, right? You want availability to be the decision-making factor in purchasing from you, right? If I have my store open 24/7, people can go to my store and buy it at any time, at any moment, right? But if my store is only open 1 day out of the month, then people have to buy it when the site opens. If they have any desire to get that item, they have to buy it when the site opens, because if not, they're gonna have to wait an entire another month to get that item. And maybe that item will never even be redropped, right? Which means that they'll never get that item, right? Which means that price point, the position of their paycheck, the time of week, how they're feeling, it doesn't play a role. These people will take off of work to buy my clothes, right? Because that is the only opportunity, the only window that they get to purchase. And that is very, very important. So fuck what people are saying on TikTok about hating that, you know, small brands keep their websites closed. Keep your website closed, do the drop model from the beginning so that you can get in the rhythm of it, right? And start that shit ASAP. And the reason this works is because there is one emotion that works phenomenally on social media and within sales, and that emotion isn't anger, it's not excitement, it's not happiness, it's not joy, it's not laughter, it's anticipation. Right? And if you can create an air of anticipation with your brand, then you can, again, make that decision-making factor to buy your clothes all about availability, right? All about, oh my gosh, I can get this now. I know I won't be able to get it in the future. Let me get it now. Not, oh, I get paid in 2 weeks, so we'll look back into that after I get paid. Not, oh, like, I'm busy today, I'll look at it tomorrow. No, you get it now or you don't get it at all. That's it, right? That anticipation of like, oh my gosh, I know this brand's only gonna have the website open for 1 day. It's in 2 weeks. I really, really want this piece. That piece is sick as fuck. I gotta be tapped in. I gotta be locked in, all right? I gotta see the updates day to day to day to day to day, right? And be ready when that drop day hits, right? Because otherwise, I'm not getting that shit, all right? That is what works today. Maybe it won't work in 10 years. Maybe it didn't work 5 years ago, but it works today. All right, that's how Tame Psychotic is where it is. That's how we went from selling jeans for $80 to selling jeans for $140. That's how we went from selling t-shirts for $30 to selling t-shirts for $60. All right, that's how we went from doing $2,000 a month to doing $100,000 a month. Okay, scarcity matters, people. All right, do not neglect it. Now, how do we create this anticipation that I'm talking about? Right? Well, what we do is we make our drops kind of like an event, right? Like Lollapalooza, or like a big rave or a big music festival, right? Like Coachella, that people wait all year for and they like get hyped for, and they book their Airbnbs months and months in advance, and they save their money aside for. That's kind of how we treat our drops, right? And we do this by starting our marketing like well in advance, all right? For those of you who are starting, you are not going to set a drop date immediately, right? You're going to post different creatives until you get some attention and some hype. And then once you have that attention and hype, then you set your drop date. And I'm saying this because most of you guys will model the brands who already have an existing audience. If you have an existing audience, right, people who are already tapped in, then you can set a drop date immediately, right? And start marketing with the anticipation that if you market for 3 weeks and then you drop, then you will make sales. But if you have no existing audience, and this is important, don't miss this. If you have no existing audience, if you are starting from scratch, you cannot pick a drop date and market up until that drop date and then expect, you know, for a genie to pop out of a little lamp and just grant your wish, boom, sell out, right? It's not how that works, all right? You need to start posting your items. You need to start trying different videos. You need to go and look up all the videos that clothing brands are making and try the different concepts and keep posting until something works, until something catches that little algorithmic like whoop, and then you get some views. And now that you have attention, now that you have some demand, now you can pick a drop date, right? But if you are starting from zero, I want to reiterate this because this is very, 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 very important. Do not expect that if you market for 3 weeks, that you're magically gonna get a bunch of people who want to buy your clothes in those 3 weeks. No, it's not how that works. Whenever you start making content and you start your clothing brand, you have zero audience. Unless you have a personal brand, you have zero audience, which means you have nobody that wants to buy your clothes. So how do we get people that want to buy our clothes? Well, like I said, we keep posting videos until one of them hits, right? One of them gets some traction from non-followers, and now we have interest, right? Now we have some demand. Now we have some views, some comments, some follows from people that didn't know your clothes existed before. And then once you have that, now you can set your drop date 3 weeks down the line. Now, once you have that traction, 3 weeks before, you're gonna start trying to build up this hype, right? You're gonna start with a little bit of a tease. You're gonna start with the, oh, we got this in the works, right? You're gonna show this design, show this detail on the garment, show this like plan for your marketing campaign, show these reference points, kind of give like a little taste of what's coming, you know? At least that's what I like to do, right? And this content should all reinforce my brand's DNA, my brand's identity, as should every single piece of content that you post. Now, here's where we lock the website. Here's where we lock the website. We put up the collection box where people can enter in their SMS or their email, whichever you choose. Now, as people are seeing this content, they're going to the website, right? They want to buy the clothes. They can't buy the clothes. They enter in their email or their SMS to get ready to buy the clothes. And that's building my list while also creating exclusivity, anticipation, right? That's what we want. Now, 2 weeks before my drop, as I start heavily marketing stuff, showing the products, right? Showing some additional creatives, posting different types of videos and photos and carousels and, you know, different creative things. That's where we're going to start kind of pushing. You know what I'm saying? We're going to start kind of building up this hype, getting people excited, driving more people to the website. Now, 1 week before the drop, here's where you're going to get creative, right? You're going to start sending previews to your email list. You're going to start sending some extra goodies to your email list, to your SMS list, an extra discount, right? An extra item that's only available to the early access people, right? Some kind of, you know, your special shit. You want to make it special for them. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like a behind the scenes a little bit. Maybe like this crazy shit happened and we didn't post about it, but we're going to talk about it with you guys because you guys are our people, right? Our family. You know what I mean? Treat them like family. And then you're going to have that build up to the drop, right? 3-4 days before getting ready for the drop, you're going to start ramping content. You're going to start pushing from all fronts: email, SMS, your social media, Instagram, your TikTok, your Twitter, whatever it is that you're posting, you're going to post on all fronts, right? You're going to start pushing traffic to your drop, getting people excited, getting people hyped, getting your friends hyped, getting your people on, you know, your Instagram story hyped, your TikTok hyped, your Instagram feed hyped, your broadcast channel on Instagram. Broadcast channels are a really, really good way to do this and make people feel like insiders. Your SMS, your email, right? Just getting people fucking hyped, you know? You're gonna market exclusivity, right? You're gonna market the fact that it's gonna sell out fast. You're gonna market the fact that you don't have much stock available. You're gonna market the fact that you're a small brand, you're starting small, there won't be much available. If you want it, you have to get it quick. The key here is making it feel like an event. Feel like something that if they don't go to, they're gonna see everybody else be a part of, get the FOMO from, and miss out on, and then hate that they missed out on it, right? You want to make it feel like some special shit. Now, next up, let's quickly talk about content. Now, most brand owners fuck this up, right? They think that, okay, well, I just need to show the content, but I would group content into 3 categories leading up to your drop. You have your product showcase content. This content is meant to show your clothes without much additional context, and this gives your audience an idea of exactly how the clothes will look, how they'll fit, how it lays on the ground, right? How it looks in a studio, no additional context, right? This is product showcase. Your next is your narrative building content. This tells a story, it attaches meaning, it kind of like brings a narrative here that kind of like gives it some extra juice. You know what I'm saying? It's not just a product. It's a product that means this to these people, and it represents this, and it took this to build it, and it took this to develop it, right? And it does this for the community, right? You want the juice, you want the narrative. And then concept type number 3 is research and development. All right, this is sharing reference points, sharing the development, right? Sharing the videos of it being made in the factory, showing the videos of the design team putting in work, showing videos of the new samples, the old samples, where it started, the sketches to the sample in hand. You know what I'm saying? The development, right? And these 3, a combination of these 3 will put your drop in a really, really good position. But what you really, really need to focus on is that second one. And Don't mean to flip you off. That's just the finger I picked for the second one. Now, that second one, narrative focused content, is really, really important. And this is where you need to get experimental, right? This is where you need to get creative and you need to really put the reps in, okay? Because this is what separates you from all of the other brands and what you really, really need to lock in on, all right? And it's just easy to find ideas, right? You're just gonna find the ideas that other brands are doing, copy them with your own brand name, your own way, your own style, right? Change a few things about them. This is what everybody does, by the way. There's nothing new under the sun. If you didn't copy another clothing brand, you copied a movie, or you copied an ad for Coca-Cola, or you copied an ad for Marlboro, okay? Everybody's copied other ads, right? You're gonna look for all those other ads, and you're gonna find the ones that you like, that you feel like you can apply an idea that's congruent with your brand's identity, your brand's DNA with, right? And then you're gonna start firing those off. Make one every fucking day. Make 10 of them, make 15 of them, and post them and do your very best, put your best effort into them and post them, right? You want those to go viral. If one of those can go viral, or if it can even get an additional 5 to 10,000 views that you wouldn't normally get, boom, that's sales. That's sales that you wouldn't have otherwise gotten, right? And that's what you need. You need that, you need a good product, and then you need a good brand identity. If you can have those three, you have traffic, you have good products, and you have good brand identity, you will win. You will win. I'm telling you. I know this. I've experimented without any kind of leadership or guidance or fucking anything for years. I've worked with clothing brands for 3 years before I started my own. I watched this with all those brands, and then I did it for myself, right? And now I've helped over 100 brand owners do it for themselves, okay? I know this shit. Listen to me when I say this. Don't fucking take this and be like, oh yeah, okay, and then like click off the video and then never do it, all right? Go do a drop and literally just post a picture of some dude wearing your shirt and then come to me after, Marshall, my drop didn't sell out. Well, it's because you didn't fucking listen to me, all right? So listen to me. Now, one way that you can get really creative with this is by kind of like changing people's perspective and kind of like breaking beliefs. This is where we go with the whole ideology, philosophical way of living type of thing. This is where our motto comes in and our kind of like just way of community operating and moving through life comes in. You want to kind of create challenges for like the way that your audience looks at life. I create kind of challenges for the way that my audience looks at like self-improvement and ascension, entrepreneurship, athletics, challenges, just leveling up in life, right? Like, to put this in simple terms, instead of like, oh, here's this hoodie, it's like, oh, here's an example of how this guy broke out of the mediocrity of life he was living in and how he got the fullest out of it and was fulfilled and happy and respected and went down in history, right? You know what I'm saying? It's not, oh, come look at this hoodie that we made. It's, oh, look at the life of Ozzy Osbourne and the impact that he had and the life he lived and what he created and the culture that he cultivated in the rock and roll community. Right? This is how we're thinking. You guys getting it? I think it's clicking. Now, once you start sewing this ideology into your marketing and your clothing, people start associating the clothing with that way of living, right? With that community. And the way to represent that visually, right, in real life is to wear your clothes, right? Because that's how you represent that culture. You know what I'm saying? Like, you see hella like people wearing merch from bands, right? They want everybody to know they were at this concert, they were on this tour, right? You see that in everything, you know what I mean? Fundraisers, right? You see all the people, you know, who do church fundraisers wearing the shirts because they want to represent the movement. You know what I'm saying? You could do the same thing with your clothing brand, with the whole streetwear concept, right? You can do the same thing. And this type of concept does two things, all right? Number one, it positions you as a thought leader in that realm. And number two, it primes your audience to get excited to see the products or tools that you use to be a thought leader in that realm, in that space. Okay, so those two things, killer right there. Now, let's talk about pricing, okay? Because this is something I get a lot of questions on from my students and something I just see a lot of people asking about, like, how should I price for my first job whenever I first start my brand? And I'm gonna tell you simply, price for profit from day one. Do not discount the worth of your products just because they're new on the market. okay? Now that doesn't mean charge $400 for a t-shirt like Balenciaga does. What I mean by that is don't create margins that don't produce enough profit for you to continue growing the brand. And my rule of thumb is that if you buy a hoodie for $1, you sell it for $3. If you buy a hoodie for $20, you sell it for $60. If you buy a hoodie for $30, you sell it for $90. I like a 3x return on my clothes in the beginning, at least. Whenever I'm bringing it to the market, there isn't really any hype. I like at least a 3x return. Now, whenever there is hype, you can bump that up to 4, maybe 5x, right? As there becomes an increase in demand for that product, right? And you can make more of those products, then you can kind of bump up, you know, your return. But initially, starting from the beginning, I like a 3x return. Anything less is just not going to be, you know, beneficial for your business, right? Unless it's just something like little tidbit in there that you want to throw to make your brand cooler. But again, we're also running a business here. This isn't just a passion project. You need funds to be able to continue to grow your business, right? And you can't ignore that. You need additional funds. You need profit so that you can continue investing in your business and making it bigger and better. And a lot of you guys are going to hear that and be like, oh, well, like, you know, I don't need to make $20 on a hoodie, you know, if it costs me $10, I don't need 60% profit margins. Well, you actually do, all right? Because there will be other costs outside of the cost of goods that are incurred in selling that piece of clothing, all right? You're gonna have marketing costs, you're gonna have fulfillment costs, you're gonna have material costs, you're gonna have operating costs, you're gonna have software costs, you're gonna have photographer costs, you're gonna have editor costs, you're gonna have model costs, all right? You are going to incur so many costs. I have tariff costs to deal with. I have operating costs to deal with. I have storage facility costs. I have fulfillment costs. I have software costs. I have a bunch of other costs that go into it, right? So whenever I'm making a 60% profit margin, I'm actually making a 40% profit margin because 20% of that will go to all of the expenses that go into running a brand, right? So if you want to have anything left over to invest back into the brand or put in your pocket, then you need to price accordingly, all right? You can't buy a hoodie for 40 bucks and sell it for 50 because you're actually losing money after all the expenses are paid, or you're breaking even, all right? And breaking even doesn't allow you any additional funds to invest back into the business. And a way that a business gets better is not by doing the same thing over and over. It's by doing something again and again, and each time doing it at a bigger, better level. Bottom line, most new brands will price according to what they think the customer will pay. And I like to price according to what the business needs to continue growing, because growth is my priority, right? Not making everybody happy with Temu Shein prices. If you want Temu Shein prices, go buy from Temu and Shein. Okay, we sell good products. We sell products we're proud of, not Shein and Temu products. Now, I know I just went through a lot. All right, you guys are probably taking a lot of information, but what I want to make clear is that building a clothing brand in 2025 is not about having the biggest budget. It's not about having the best designs. It's about understanding that you are not selling clothes. You are building a community and a movement around your authentic vision and story. Now, the framework that I just shared would have probably saved me about 2 years in mistakes and probably close to $50,000 in fuck ups. But here's the reality, okay? Knowing what to do, hearing what I'm telling you to do, and then consistently implementing what I'm telling you to do is 2 different ball games. So if you are serious about really doing this shit, I've put together a 45-minute masterclass on starting your clothing brand, and then also a 45-minute masterclass on marketing your clothing brand, a marketing playbook. It's all free. It's on YouTube. I'll link the videos up here. And these 2 go a lot deeper than what we covered today. It's the same framework that I use to build my brand Tame Psychotic to 7 figures with no ads, no influencers, no crazy marketing gimmicks, just real tactics that fucking work. We go into psychological frameworks, we go into numerics, we go into logistics, we go into shipping, into design, into manufacturing, into sourcing, into all the good shit. And if you're interested in some hands-on, more one-on-one work with myself and my team, hit the link in the description. There'll be an application there. We don't work with very many brands, but we do take on a couple every month to kind of, you know, really take you guys to the next level, hold your hand throughout the process, and give you a real curriculum and support system and support community to help you along the way. It's really something that I would have loved to have whenever I started a brand. So I built this because my experience building my brand sucked, because I had no support, I had no instruction, I had no curriculum, I had no accountability, I had no feedback from experts, I had no links or plugins with brand owners that were doing well. It was just me by myself grinding that shit out with ChatGPT and YouTube, all right? And it took me a long time and it cost me a lot of money. So I built this and we've actually created it into probably the biggest and best online education opportunity for brand owners in 2025. It is really something special. So with that being said, stop following generic guru business advice on YouTube and start creating something special. Start creating something authentic. Start creating something that truly represents who you are. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.